Welcome to Ask GMBN. Now, if you have never tuned into this show, you guys can actually leave us some questions in the comment section down below, or you can send an email to ask@GMBN, and we will try our very best to respond either in this video or through the comments. So, without further ado, let's get to the first question, and it is from DHFRX Unknown. And he says, what the hell is a rat doing here on the table? Well, this week, he seems to have disappeared, maybe gone to some warmer climates. After all, it's getting a little bit chillier now that it's autumn. Dorset madness. Anyone got any tips for cross-country riders? Well, Dorset, we certainly do. We've got a lot of tips. If you check out some videos on the channel, we've got climbing, we've got descending, we've got training, we've got fasted rides, all sorts of things. And I can tell you, watch this space because there's some more coming very soon. Nico Rittler, when I try to lift the rear wheel to do a bunny hop, I just jump up from my pedals and I can't lift the rear wheel. Have you got any solutions? Nico, it definitely sounds like you're just jumping up on the bike. You're not actually pulling the front wheel up, leaning back and then driving forward with your hips. But what I can suggest that you check out is a full step-by-step video on how to bunny hop.
Bunny hop is an essential technique you need to use on a mountain bike. It's something that I use all the time for getting over obstacles. Something like a really slippy route or a rock section. Rather than driving the bike into these things, you start taking weight off the wheels, maybe jumping that section completely, or maybe just unweighting slightly so you're carrying speed over these edges. Also, it's the key technique you need to use to make height on a jump.
Nathan Gregory is asking, what mudguards do you guys use on your bikes and where can I get them? Well, Nathan, it's a great question, especially with winter coming ahead of us. It's going to get muddier, it's going to get dirty out on the trails. But what we actually use here is Ass Savers, and you can support us by going to the shop, which is shop.gmbn.com, and you'll find them in there. Alternatively, what I actually use on the front wheel is a marsh guard. Now, it just goes over the front wheel and eliminates some of that spray coming up onto your face. Azam Cernic says, how should I avoid punctures without going tubeless? Have you got anything against tubeless? It's quite simple to do, and if you've got tubeless ready ties, you really do not have an excuse. You could do other things like a slime tape which goes round the inner tube and the tire, but I've never really had that great an experience with it and I find it quite awkward to fit. So maybe look at different tire sidewalls and definitely think about going tubeless, because I've got to say there's not many drawbacks at all from it. Venom Hades is asking, can cleaning your bike with a hose ruin it? I use jet mode so it just whacks the mud off. Well, I mean, a lot of people have different opinions on this. I've always used a hose. A lot of people are adverse to it. You can use a pressure washer, but it really depends how you use it. If you point it straight down into the bearings, then yeah, you're going to wash that grease out. You're going to make the bike last not as long as it possibly could. But why don't you check out our How to Clean Your Bike in 30 Minutes for some great advice.
Start off hosing it off, just trying to get the worst of that mud off. You can use a jet wash, but bear in mind that jet washes will blast out all the grease in your bearing. So if you do, just be careful about where you blast it. I'll start off by going around the tyres, blasting all that dirt out of the tyre tread, and then start working from the top down on the bike, not forgetting to go under the seat and under the frame.
Now, last week I suggested that after you've mastered that endo skill, you should take it out onto the trails and learn how to endo around the switchback. And Marco Polo has rightly asked a question about this, and he says, is it quicker to endo around the tight switchback or slam the rear brake and just slide it around? Well, it really depends on the corner, but the one thing that I've got to say, if you are just going to slam that brake on and slide it around the turn, be very respectful of the trails that you are riding. If someone's put a lot of hard work into building and maintaining those trails, and you just go in and rip it up, they are going to be really annoyed. But what you could do is actually time it. You could get a stopwatch out, get your mate to time you from X point to X point, and see which is quicker, whether it's you endo it or whether it's you slam it round. The endo, you're definitely going to have a little bit more control. Will Agnew is saying, what's better to have, a brand new downhill bike or a second-hand trail bike and a second-hand downhill bike? I've got to say, it's a pretty good option. 2 for 1 maybe? I'd probably say that getting both. I mean, I really do love riding my trail bike, or my enduro bike as you could call it these days, because you can do so much on it. We recently went on a trip to Whistler. All we took was our trail bikes and I handled everything in the bike park. So I'd definitely suggest going for the trail bike and the downhill bike. And then Source Atomy is saying, what's the difference between freeride and downhill? Well, the big difference in my eyes is the fact that freeride is judged by style and also speed, whereas downhill it's purely who can get from the top to the bottom in the quickest time. And if you want to know more about downhill, why not check out what is downhill?
Often likened to downhill skiing, the idea is the same. The riders smash open the start gate and they race down terrain such as fast open ski pistes, tight technical woods and rocky and rooty sections that are almost unrideable. The rider that crosses the laser beam at the finish in the fastest time is the winner.
It's time for the quick fire round. Let's get going, we've only got 90 seconds. Socrates Nicolaou is asking, can I get a job at a bike shop at the age of 16 as a mechanic or a seller? Yeah, definitely. Bike shops are always looking for Saturday boys, so why don't you pop in, ask and see if you can get a job. Sasha Brito is asking, can I use a trail bike for cross country? Yes, definitely. You're not going to be as fast, you're not going to have the rolling resistance, but you can definitely climb on them. Bruno Zub is saying, will GMBN have a female presenter anytime soon? Yep, we're looking at it. We're just looking at candidates and perhaps in the future, one will be on the channel. Storm Crafter is saying, can I do a downhill front suspension on my enduro bike? In theory you can. We've had a lot of questions about upgrading your fork on your enduro bike. I'd probably not recommend it, but why not? Dino Inc. is saying, how long does it normally take to fully learn a wheelie? I'd say a few years. I mean, it's definitely practice makes perfect. Jake Nichols is saying, I have left my bike for a month now, took it out of the shed and all the gear cables have seized. How has this happened? Well, it's probably just not been used. So give it a little bit of WD-40 or something like that, oil up those cables and they'll be running like new in no time at all. Richard Tara, I'm not even going to try and say that. Why do the pros not use Strava? What app do the pros use? Well, the chances are they've probably got a Garmin or a heart rate monitor wired up at the front, and that's going to give them all their information from data. Oh! Lax Rider saying, what age do you start riding? I started at 13. Okay, so it's time for Correct Me If I'm Wrong, and it's a chance where you can send in some video clips of you out riding. We'll critique them, give you some advice, and maybe just get you a little bit better on the trails. And the first one actually comes from Bryson Metzgar. Let's take a look at what he is doing. So he's got a wicked little homemade jump. He comes into the run-in, he's looking pretty good. Pulls back, pushes the bike down. Now, oh, Bryson. I've got to say, not wearing a helmet, you, mate, are a donut. Make sure that you're wearing your helmet, because if you come off and hit your head, you're definitely gonna regret it. But let's get back to how you're looking on the bike. Middle of there, you look really comfortable, and see you start to push the bike into the landing to try and get the downslope. And if anything, the correct me if I'm wrong that I can give you is make the jump a little bit longer so you can nail the top of that downslope and get the pump perfectly. But take that onto the trails, because you, my friend, are looking pretty good. The next one, let's take a look, and this is from Heath Norton. Now he's looking for a bit of advice about manualing, so let's just have a look at how he is doing. So, yeah, okay, I can see what you're doing. You're definitely not leaning far enough back off the bike. You're not finding that balance point. So maybe just think about practicing the wheelies a little bit more, getting them absolutely nailed before taking it onto the manuals. Make sure that you're dropping your heels a little bit more as well so you can get over the back, find that balance point. That is absolutely key. And once you're comfortable with that, just feather that back brake just a little bit so you can keep it going for much longer. And if you've got some mountain bike questions or videos that you'd like to get checked over, then why not send them in or leave it in the comment section down below. And whilst you're here, you should check out some more videos from GMBN, right? Why don't you click just here and you're going to get to our epic ride in Whistler, and over here for upgrading your wheels, is it worth it? Don't forget to click how about on me to subscribe, and you'll get a great video every day of the week. Ha! The rat's back in the shed.